Hey, everybody, and welcome to A Fresh Take. I'm your host, Dan Friedman, aka Danny Fresh. Welcome, real fun show. We're going to break down the new Moon Knight trailer. We're going to be getting into the new Lord of the Rings, Power of the Rings, forget what the subtitle is, trailer. And then we're going to spend a good chunk of time diving deep on the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. A couple of great guests coming up, but I'm going to start briefly. A few different people have been hitting me up on different social media platforms and wanted to know currently what comics I'm reading, what I recommend, and so Wednesday is New Comic Book Day. If you're not a collector, that's when the new books come out every Wednesday at the shops. So I'm going to show you a couple things that I picked up that I think are of interest. Um, the one that might be of most interest to non-comic readers but fans of the MCU at large is Iron Fist just relaunched with a new #1, and we have a new Iron Fist. And there is no doubt in my mind that the reason we have a new Iron Fist is Marvel, as with the Charlie Cox appearance, is bringing back the very popular and beloved Netflix Marvel Universe characters and bringing them all over. And I think we all know that Iron Fist was the one that failed for a variety of reasons, but really had the wrong actor in the lead role. And they recast it in the comics. And I think it's going to make for a much better choice cinematically. And that's why they're doing that. But if you wanted to get in on Iron Fist, you wanted a new jump in point, relaunch with #1. The other one I want to show, this is just a straight cover by. This is the most recent X-Men, but Marvel is doing these Black History Month covers, and I just thought this Storm, I'm trying to get it without glare, this Storm cover is just gorgeous. Storm's one of my absolute favorites, and so I just wanted to share that with you. In general, X-Men delivers. The one that I haven't yet read, I just learned about the series, it's actually about 4 issues in now, is What's the Furthest Place from Here, from Image Comics. Essentially post-apocalyptic. The land is kind of inhabited by youth gangs. I think the adults are gone. I'm not sure exactly whether it's the fallout. I still have to read it, but it's getting a lot of buzz, and I like a good post-apocalyptic sprawling story. So I'll keep you guys posted as I read through that one. If you like all age stories, not kid stories, but all age stories, a really fantastic series that still doesn't get enough love, and I'm sure we're going to be getting a series of, is Kanto. This is Kanto, the third arc, Lionhearted. It's essentially, a knight's journey. Kanto's, just kind of a brave little knight with a big heart. Wizards, dragons, all that kind of good stuff, but really, really well done, full of heart. Highly recommend it. And like, if you have kids in your life, nieces, nephews, I'd say 8 and up easily can get into this story. So Kanto. Fantastic Four has a great big story arc going on now, the Reckoning War, which has going to be, I think, a landmark event, and has been a good read. And then Spider-Man, up until a few months ago, had really been, in my opinion, on one of its worst runs ever. I'd stopped reading it, which I almost never stopped reading Spider-Man, but it relaunched a few months back, and it's been great, really fun, and it's coming out weekly right now. We've got the introduction of a new character. Actually, that was the last issue, but this Red Goblin, female Goblin character. It's been a really, really fun read. It's very accessible. So if you've fallen out of Spider-Man, you want to get big again, great read. Recommend that one. And finally, I'm hit or miss with Donny Cates, but I have liked what he's been doing with the Thor run. The current run deals with Mjolnir, his hammer, and it's sort of like embodiment and personality coming to life, and all hell breaks loose. Just a big fun romp. So that's what I picked up this past week. And if you want to know more about any of those, let me know. And I'll do these periodically, kind of let you guys know what I'm reading, what I'm digging, and try to make some recommendations. So, all right. With that, let's bring in our guests. We've got the returning champ, Robert Kessler, and we've got a first-time guest who I'm really excited to have on, Joe Risper. Joe, come in the feed. We're waiting. Let me see if I can do it for you. There you go. I'll add you in.
Yay!
There you are. Welcome, Joe. So we are going to be watching some trailers here, and then reacting to them. And if you haven't seen these, watch them with us. Well, you're going to watch them with us, even if you have seen them. So, producer Dan, can you hook us up and let's start with Lord of the Rings trailer, Rings of Power.
All right, here we go.
Haven't you ever wondered what else is out there? There's wonders in this world beyond our wandering. I can feel it.
So I messed up my own show order because I had told Kessler that he was going to actually lead us off before we watched it to give a little context.
Let's just dive into it.
But let's just dive into it. Well, can you just give us what is about to roll out here with Amazon and with Lord of the Rings franchise?
So this is sort of like the culmination of a strategic shift that Amazon made back like 5 years ago now. Like when Prime Video first launched and started doing originals, they were like very niche programming. So it was like Transparent. What else did I write down here? The Man in the High Castle, Mozart in the Jungle, One Mississippi. These were the types of shows that they were doing like in their first 5 years. And for someone like me, that worked. So it's like I started subscribing to Prime, Amazon Prime, just to watch Transparent. And then quickly I started buying all sorts of shit from Amazon. Then I started getting used to like renting movies on Amazon. Like I'm now a person who like very regularly like, oh, where can I find this movie? Oh, nowhere. Well, I'll pay $4 to like rent it on Amazon. But I think they reached a point like 5 years ago where like they had sort of like gotten everyone through that strategy. So they pivoted to like a mass market strategy. And that's when you started to see things like Jack Ryan. You see Julia Roberts signing on to do Homecoming, Al Pacino in Hunters, the Boys, and The Wheel of Time. And this is sort of the pinnacle of that strategy. So The Lord of the Rings has been in development for so long that like it was actually like acquired by Amazon like the same week as The Boys was acquired by Amazon.
Wow.
But like this is now coming finally like later this year. Amazon spent $250 million simply to acquire the rights. That's like before any production costs come into play, any marketing, anything like that. And with these streaming services, like I try to keep in mind, like what is the ultimate goal? And it's different from the way things used to be, where it's like every platform, every network, like ABC, NBC, Fox, it was all like trying to do the same thing. Amazon's goal is different from Disney Plus's goal, is different from Apple's goal. The goal here is to get as many Prime subscribers as possible so that Jeff Bezos can get a small percentage of every single thing that every single person on the planet buys.
Right.
So,
right. The Amazon goal is colonization of Mars.
So this show is, the goal of this show is to be the biggest show to ever air on television for every single person to watch it. And I guess the question is this trailer make y'all interested and make everyone out there interested in watching it?
Right.
So what's the budget for this show?
Insane.
Unlimited.
It's the most expensive TV show ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, and it's also like, it's not right. It's like, it's this show and then another show and then another show. I mean, their idea is for this to be a never ending sprawl, right? I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm hyped for it. I think, you know, for one, you get to see like Second Age, Numenor here.
Oh, see, he's already lost me. Go for it.
Well, you're not
no. Give Darius on the wheel. Do it.
I have no idea what these creatures are. you know,
The
I'm
antler
slightly
hand
into Tolkien
people?
here, but you have returning favorites from Lord of the Rings, like Galadriel here. You finally get to see Durin, like King of the
Finally.
Dwarves. Elrond is back. There's finally dwarven women, as you can see here.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. It makes me hype.
I mean, I'm not. I'll watch it. Seems like it could be fun. I can't. I'm as about net neutral as I think I could be. Like I love fantasy stuff. I love diving into fantasy stuff. If they do it well, I'll certainly give it a chance. I love the Lord of the Rings, the books. The Hobbit was probably the first, high fantasy book I ever read as a kid. I didn't love the Hobbit films, but I think the Lord of the Ring films are fantastic, and it clearly seems like they're like going out of their way to grab whatever they possibly can from reference points for that. But whatever, like that's where I'm at. I'm not against it, but it's not. I'll watch it because I like fantasy.
I don't really care about this much at all. I think that I sort of find this practice of these big companies adapting the backstory to their seminal works to be kind of frankly bizarre. I understand it sort of seems like it's all coming from a risk mitigation strategy. They're we're not going to create something new. We're going to take this line of an appendix from the book, the story you all loved, and adapt that. And it was something in a piece on the Ringer last week. They were talking about the book of Boba Fett. Ben Lindbergh wrote the piece, and he was talking about how Star Wars is now carving out the crevices of its backstory to tell its stories and not moving forward. And Game of Thrones is doing the same thing. I'd rather see what happens 100 years after what we saw in Game of Thrones. I really don't care to see more stories that book readers are going to tell me, oh, this is super important because of this. And it's the same thing here. It's I don't know, if this was so important to Tolkien, he would have written the story about this. It's some backstory from thousands of years earlier. It's just move forward.
Yeah.
No, I feel the same exact way as I actually read the Game of Thrones books, and I feel the same way about their backstory. It's give us something new to move forward in a new story. And that's how I feel about the Lord of the Rings series. It's I have just started watching the movies, and I'm this is really great. And I think what makes Lord of the Rings great is that it came out 15, 20 years ago. It didn't have all the big budgets and special effects of forever ago, but it still was a great story. And I'm let's move forward something new. And I'm just yeah, I'm over the nostalgia phases of things and want a new story and want something that me as a reader can't go find in the books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't get too hung up on the idea of we're gonna have content that moves beyond the author's intent, especially when we're dealing with content that's well past that author being alive. So that there are other writers that can do justice. I don't know. I'm not anti being before, being after, being anything. I just don't know.
One of the challenges here is that the Tolkien estate had a lot of stipulations when they sold this to Amazon, and have been there's certain elements of Middle Earth history that Amazon does not have the rights to. They've kind of been shoehorned into whatever Tolkien's heirs want them to do, which is very strange to me.
Yeah. Dan, I don't want to yuck your yum.
Wait. What were you gonna say, Dan?
I said I don't want to yuck your yum, Dan. So talk just a little bit more about it.
I mean, what I understand what you guys are saying, where you want are you saying you want new IP, or you want new stories in the same universe that aren't from the past of the original of the author's content?
Yes. And it still be good, and it still actually be good, and hold on to what the author created.
Wait, are you saying new stories in the future of set universe?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I get that, but I feel there are stories to be told in the past too if they haven't been fully told. You know, I mean, Tolkien created civilizations and then destroyed them just to like have Lord of the Rings exist, right? So like there is all this unwritten stuff about what happens in the Second Age. That like there are characters being created for this show, and it is new content.
I mean, look, there's a whole talking about that. I don't really. I mean, Lord of the sorry, Game of Thrones. I have a very specific thing, but we can save that for another time. But as far as the past versus the future, I'm not too caught up in that. And in fact, like I would just watch like a history show about like the wizards and how they got there and all that, because that stuff's pretty rich. But to me, it's not about. I don't have any qualm with any of that. I didn't get anything from that trailer. I don't mean like I thought it was bad. I don't mean I thought it was good. I mean I heard some music and I saw some people shoot some arrows and some like big antler foot ear people. I don't know what that was. And like I'm like, okay, but if you spent that much money and this is your first swing to get me in and you gave me some highlights, it didn't, okay.
Okay, I will say that the trailer was not as hype as it like yeah.
I think that like, when we think about like comic books, it's like all these characters were created by like writers years and years ago, and then like various other authors, writers, artists were able to like take on the mantle of this IP and take the stories in directions that like the original creators couldn't have thought of. And for whatever reason, with like a few of our like big IPs, like with Star Wars and with Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, like they're not allowing a new generation to sort of do that in the same way. So like we've gotten so many good Spider-Man stories and X-Men stories and Avengers stories because people who weren't Stan Lee were able to elevate them to a different place in the future.
Hey Socrates, it's a great comment. We love you. Come on the show if you're going to drop stuff like that, man.
It's like, why do I want to watch a show about how the rings are created when I already know how the rings end up being destroyed?
Valid.
Yeah. That is an issue. That is
like
all right. Well, so consensus is there's a general skepticism. One person's particularly hype. I'm pretty open mind. We'll see. I'm sure we'll be getting it doesn't drop till September. I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of stuff between now.
I think it would be dope if HBO. I think it'd be dope if HBO launched their Game of Thrones spinoff the exact same week.
That'd be shots fired. All right.
Game of Thrones always seem to premiere around like April or May too. I feel like it's gonna come out just like soon-ish.
Maybe. It has been like suspiciously quiet. All right, let us move on to Moon Knight. We got a new trailer, not a ton of new stuff, but there were a couple things that caught my eye that I thought were worth discussing. So let's take a look at the new Moon Knight trailer that came out during the Super Bowl. Actually, I guess all these came out during the Super Bowl.
I can't tell the difference between my waking life and dreams. It must be very difficult. The voices in your head. There's chaos in you. Embrace it.
Are we? Yeah. Cool. So any first reactions? Joe, have you seen did you see the previous trailer at all?
I have not seen the previous Moon Knight trailer. Yeah.
And you're not super Moon Knight knowledgeable, is that correct?
Not super Moon Knight knowledgeable, no.
So perfect. What's your instant reaction to that one?
My instant reaction as someone who does follow the MCU is like, where in the MCU timeline is this falling, and like what other shows is connected to? Because like I'm always trying to piece together like the MCU timeline. So that's my like initial reaction of figuring out, and then like reaction of the characters, like I don't know, I'm excited. Like I've liked a lot of the MCU like stuff that's come out in the series. I think that like the MCU series don't have the high pressure of a movie and performing in the box office and one-upping the other one. So it doesn't have more fun of actually digging into the comics. So like I'm excited to see more characters be added to this and more like variations of the timeline and like these one-off heroes and one-off villains.
Fellas, any thoughts?
I mean, I wonder. I don't think that it'll be one-off, but I mean, like, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, Joe.
When I say
But-
one-off, I mean like it's not like the Captain Americas and everything falls into like one big timeline and one big event that's leading up. It's more of like we have a villain that doesn't require an Avengers ensemble and like multiple like heroes coming together, but it can be one hero, one villain, a smaller fight.
Gotcha.
So let me give a little context there. Some things we do know. I would say that there's a little bit of a misdirect purposefully going on with the information we've gotten about Moon Knight so far, because I think they are giving us the indication that it feels a little bit more self-contained than maybe it will. My guess is that we'll probably see a Blade cameo. My guess is that we'll get some more horror elements. And we know that Marvel's in development and sort of wants to open up like the horror wing, whatever that means in a Disney Plus PG-13 world, but wants to kind of open up their horror books, right? So I think that Moon Knight will lay a lot of the tracks for kind of movement in that direction. So I do think it will get a little bit bigger. But I think it probably for the first time since, I'm probably forgetting somebody, but probably the first time since Guardians, we're getting like I guess Eternals was like this too. But you're getting like a real introduction to a character that the public at large doesn't have much of a working handle on. So they are going to have to do Shang-Chi. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think it is going to have a little bit of that slower burn. And my guess is kind of like mid-season, we may expand out after we get into it a little bit. A couple things I am kind of hyped for it, and I think it may just be so far the way they use the soundtrack in the trailer, but it's just really working for me. There's something about the tone of this that feels very confident, and just exciting, and it's kind of what I was talking about with the Rings of Power. Like, it left me kind of nonplussed. Like this, like I'm hyped, and I'm not a big Moon Knight fan. I really am not. I don't think it's an awesome character or anything. But it looks like they're going to get it right. Yeah.
So what do you think is happening with the Ethan Hawke character? This looks very compelling.
Okay.
Have no clue what to make of any of it though.
Okay.
And there doesn't even seem to really be much online about this.
So
at least,
yeah. Let me give you some things about the Ethan Hawke. So the short answer is I don't know. He's titled. I wrote it down because I was trying to remember the title of the character.
I believe it's Arthur Harrow.
Yes, thank you. Okay,
yeah.
So the character he's titled on, it is like literally in like one issue of Moon Knight. And he's sort of, and they do seem to be doing this in the little bit we've seen with him. That he's sort of essentially de facto cult leader.
He has said in interviews that he inspired by David Koresh.
Yeah, so he does like sort of experimentations on people, and then that sort of it ended it with them sort of have zombie-like results and whatever. But that's a pretty small thing. So I was thinking a little bit. So like Moon Knight is the avatar of Khonshu, this Egyptian god of vengeance, and so he's the Knight of Vengeance. And I believe that there's a scene where we see the tattoo of the scale.
Yeah.
And that's Anubis, right? The Egyptian god who does sort of the weighing of your life at the end of your life. So I think that and this is a leap, but I think that Ethan Hawke may turn out to be sort of the avatar for Anubis, and so we'll go get that, because otherwise we got to get to the Egypt stuff and the temples and the god fights, and all the way we see that in there. I mean, that's. So how do we get there? I think that's how we get there, and I think that's how we open up to a bigger horror world.
So does Moon Knight make like Egyptian gods canon in the MCU?
Yeah, I mean, just about every god is canon in the MCU. Or I guess I should I should say in the Marvel comic universe. I shouldn't say the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I was just wondering. Like, I'm thinking about. There's an X-Men that I never watched, which is the Dark Phoenix one with Sophie Turner, and that was X-Men Apocalypse, right? It had to do with an Egyptian god, didn't it?
Two different films.
Apocalypse, yeah.
terrible films back to back.
Okay.
Terrible. Stop it.
They were.
Okay.
They're just
But
not-
Apocalypse had to do with an Egyptian god, right?
Yeah, Apocalypse.
Yes.
Sort of, kind of.
In
Yeah.
the comics, do these relate in any way?
Oh, Moon Knight and Khonshu and Apocalypse? No.
Yeah.
So Apocalypse, the super short version, like this is the super short version. Apocalypse is sort of Earth's first mutant, and because he's this mutant born thousands of years ago in Egypt, he essentially becomes a god, like or is seen in that way because he has these superpowers. And then part of his superpowers are the sort of immortality, which is why he lives all these years and can do all this technology.
Okay.
But that's we'll deep dive Apocalypse.
Got you.
I mean, he's such a great villain, and I wonder how much time has to pass from that movie before the MCU can use him, because it's a shame. I mean, it's a shame. It's one of the absolute best villains. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I don't know, Kessler, anything to add? That you saw
Not
this
really.
movie?
I mean, I feel like people who have been watching this show can certainly get enough of you and I discussing the Moon Knight trailer if they know where to look. So episode 1, everyone, we went deep on it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Hey, everybody, hit the like button and subscribe. I feel like tell people to do that, right? No, but seriously, do it. Okay, cool. So main event here.
Yeah.
The Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. We're gonna watch this trailer, and we'll probably rewatch it and hit some different frames and things like that. Well, anyway, I won't preamble. Wait, Oscar, this is correct.
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
my
that
God.
is
Yes.
Yeah, I'm trying to strike it from my mind, but that is the overlap, the Egyptian overlap. Yeah, let's just watch it. No, I won't preamble.
Here we go.
Every night, I dream the same dream. And then, the nightmare begins. I did what I had to do to protect our world.
You cannot control everything, Strange. You opened the doorway between universes, and we don't know who or what will walk through it.
Wanda, what do you know about the multiverse?
Viz had his theories. He believed it was dangerous.
He was right.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Your desecration of reality will not go unpunished.
We should tell him the truth.
Things just got out of hand.
You break the rules.
Look out!
You become a hero. I do it, I become the enemy. It doesn't seem fair.
Okay.
I just noticed it said in the Multiverse of Madness and not and the Multiverse of Madness.
So I just gotta say, like, if the thing that Strange really had to do was protect Spider-Man's identity, you didn't have to do that, buddy. You just did not have to do that. You could have just been like, Peter, deal with it.
I think you may be talking about the spell he did at the end of that movie, but
Okay.
I think it's probably about it probably has nothing to do with any of that.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it looks great. Trailers can lie. Here's my one. I don't know if it's a problem, but my one like tricky lens in which to talk about any of this is I feel like there's so much misdirection in this trailer that it's hard to have an honest conversation about it, but it looks awesome. I mean, it's Sam Raimi swinging, throwing heat, you know?
No, that's how I feel too. Is I feel like everything we're seeing in the trailer can just be possible like trips on different universes that like are not connected to the main story, and these are just random variants we are seeing. Like I think we're seeing like Patrick Stewart coming in. I think he'll die. It'll be like a quick, just like 5-minute cameo. I don't think we're getting much from all of these like different scenes we're seeing. Like I think it's misdirections and won't pull into the main story.
I think that is sort of like a concern that I have, at least right now, is like that the whole movie could end up just being like multiversal tourism, where they're like dropping in on all these sorts of like different universes, and it might feel less of a cohesive whole, because like I still don't feel like we've now seen this character in like 5 or 6 films, but I don't feel like I really have a clear sense of like who he is, what drives him, what makes him tick. His first appearance was spent so much time like establishing like that the whole like corner of the universe that he operates and some of those like key relationships, and then it sort of hit the ground running from there, and he's sort of this like tool in other people's stories. It's like, oh, like they can do portals, like, oh, they can do spells, like, oh, they can do this, but like I don't really understand why Doctor Strange set out to like get his hands healed, and then instead of just going back to being a surgeon, he like decided to become like a sorcerer supreme. Like, why didn't he just do what Pangborn did?
I think it's like,
no, go.
Oh, I was like, I think it's sort of like Stephen Strange enjoys like a little bit of the power, a little bit of the mystery of like everything that, you know, he's learning, but also like he like seems to have a tendency like now, like throughout all these movies he's in, to kind of meddle and like do things that are a little bit like he's like breaking rules. Like he probably shouldn't have done that spell with Peter Parker, and like he just like kept stuffing more stuff into it, and then, you know, almost broke the universe. And maybe this one is a misdirection, and maybe like it's a spell that he did to like, it's like sort of like what if, and he's like trying to go rescue you know, his girlfriend or fiance, I can't remember from the first movie, but he seems to be someone who just like likes to break rules or like push the boundaries.
Yeah, I actually feel like he's one of the cleanest sort of what he does. I just think he's got a God complex, and it may not be that interesting. That's a different argument, but like he wants to be the man. He thinks he's the best at everything. He has a lot of reasons to think he is the best at everything, and so they answer the question of like, why not go back and be a surgeon? Because the second he realizes that there's a greater great to be, he'll be the greater great. And I have a feeling that actually sort of the crux of this film will be a further greater great for him to be. That's sort of, you know, Juan says you can't control everything, and he fundamentally thinks he can, and he keeps going. And I think that's part of that Wanda moment where she's like, you know, I'm the villain when I do these things, and you're the hero. That's not fair. I mean, I think that's part of the thing was that Steven will always fix it, even if he breaks it more, because he's going to always try to do greater than.
Yeah.
I do think that sort of throne room, which we should really talk about in a little bit, but that moment is the part that doesn't make me think it'll just be multiversal tourism. If that wasn't there, I would be more concerned. But I want to step back just a little. I think it's really important when talking about misdirects to talk about, because how many different ways at this point we've interacted with the multiverse since they've brought up the concept. and and the idea that like even in the trailer he goes, what do you know about the multiverse? Not much, like well, okay, well, Kang and the timelines is the multiverse, and what Loki and what's the character's name?
Sylvia.
Did
Sylvie.
Sylvie did. You've got Wanda pulled this Quicksilver, which was our first kind of thing, and everyone's like, it's the timelines are all, well, it turns out that wasn't even a thing, right? The creation of her kids, that was right. There's the Spider-Man multiverse moment. There's the I checked all the different realities that ever could have been, and there was only one scenario, right? Like we don't actually know the multiverse rules yet. And my overarching hunch is that that what we're seeing is them playing at stakes they think are stakes, and Kessler, you might argue that that's a problem, that they're playing at stakes, and the stakes are significantly larger and graver than what they're already playing with. I will say on the and we've seen characters like Kingpin and Charlie Cox fold in without explanation, and okay, they're in our universe. We've seen the Quicksilver tease and isn't. We've seen who's the character that we've seen the Spider-Man that actually were there but are now gone, right? And the villains that are gone. So what? And I think Marvel's essentially being like they're almost clearing the decks, right? They're almost giving themselves every out, and I have a feeling that's what this movie. It's a joke, but it's so real. This movie's going to have every we're going to get Hugh Jackman. We're going to get we're going to be able to say farewell to all the favorites so that they can move us to the next group.
Yeah,
and I think that whether that's done well or poorly will hinge on how we feel about this film.
I think this movie, honestly, is going to. I think this will be in my opinion. Like, I know that there's Ant-Man coming out, Quantumania, but I think this will be the beginning and the end of the multiverse in a way just to collapse all the storylines into each other. So I think we're getting Fantastic Four. I think we're getting X-Men. I think we're getting Deadpool. I think we'll be like Wanda destroys the multiverse, all collapses into one, and like we're moving into that phase 5 where now we're trying to explain like this one main universe and storyline with all these new like powers coming into it.
Okay,
that's just my opinion in theory.
No, I know. So I'm gonna blow up a little bit of that. So can I do deep dive comic book nerd stuff for a minute, or does somebody want to jump in on this before I do that?
Well, I was wondering if before we dive into sort of some of that stuff, if we just want to go through like a few other general thoughts on the trailer and some of the other characters that appear before we then dive into sort of the Illuminati of it all.
Yeah, and
I had in my notes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's things that I want to reference that are like screenshots. So let's do it. If anybody wants to pull up a frame, a section, shout it out. And
so one thing I want to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe.
One thing I want to like note and mention is like paying attention to the colors, and I think paying attention to the contrast of red and blue. Of red being that chaos magic that is Wanda in distress and danger, and blue being that pacifist like magic that is Doctor Strange, and seeing like the different scenes and color and contrast background, letting you know what's happening is like one of the things I paid attention to in this.
That is an interesting thing to play on the colors. I would push back a little bit on the pacifist magic, because Strange talks all the time about how he's like playing with demon arts and dark magic. So that I might quibble with the word there, but that's interesting.
Yeah, like one thing I thought like I was appreciated about this trailer was it looks like we're gonna actually like treat the events of WandaVision in a more real way, instead of it's just like that's a thing that happened. Like she talks about how people see her as a villain now and people see him as a hero. And that's a more interesting thing to explore moving forward. Because I felt like it was sort of a flaw with the end of WandaVision that she didn't have to account for her actions enough at the end of that.
I agree with that. What do you make then of, I have so many thoughts at once. What do you make then of the previous trailer where he literally says to her, I'm not here to talk about that. He like almost dismisses it out of hand.
Well, maybe he dismisses it out of hand, but it definitely feels in this trailer with a few things that she says that she's feeling like the world is treating the two of them differently for doing things that are similar, and that's compelling.
So
and she even is in her Westview house in like a scene in this trailer, right? Like she's like looking at herself in her Westview house.
In the Westview house, yeah.
Right.
So let me posit this. When we last saw Wanda was reading from the Darkhold, which is the darkest book of magic within the Marvel universe, and essentially drives people insane. Wanda already has a fragile psyche, as we know, right? And when I talk about Misdirection, is it possible that we are applying narrative to the character we're seeing in conversation with Steven as a continuum, when in reality they may be talking about completely different set of events? That this might be a Darkhold manipulated, changed Wanda. She may have been pulling from forces beyond her, etc. And so like the conversation they're having has nothing to do with the town.
Yeah.
The whatever that town was called.
Well, the last we saw of Wanda, there were two Wandas though. There was Wanda reading the Darkhold, and there was Wanda drinking her tea.
Right. So there's Wanda walking the fields with Steven. Yeah.
So is there a possibility that there is like a darker version or reality of Wanda operating at the same time is basically the villain of this movie that is like searching through the universe to get her children with no costs of like no care of the cost.
I think you, and I get it, really like Wanda as a character and are giving her probably a bigger role than she's going to have in this movie. Because, and it's not to say that she isn't going to have a big role. I think she is clearly going to have a big role. I think there's going to be Wanda fireworks for sure. I think a Professor X Wanda battle seems very on the table to me. I think that a lot of that stuff may happen. But if you look at that, there's so many other things that happen in this trailer that they've got to get to, that it's hard for me to imagine. Wanda's not in this tribunal room. Wanda's not America Chavez, who we should talk about, punching star holes through reality. I think I'd be surprised if like Wanda's the big bad. I think that's going to be a thing they have to deal with. But if that was like the first third of the movie, I wouldn't, and then not her, I wouldn't be surprised.
And I just want to mention, like at the end of WandaVision, when you see two Wandas, like Wanda is reading the Darkhold in astral projection form, like Strange is studying Doctor Strange. Right,
that's true. That's true.
Is it like unless
who knows?
Unless that's
what I think I saw.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? Who knows? So let's talk more about the trailer. So noting the colors, which is always good to pick up because I'm colorblind and I don't see that stuff anyway. So that's a good call. I would never found it. Other things from the trailer that are elements that people wanted to dive in.
Dan, I think we should get into the Illuminati of it all.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dan, tell me, what are essential elements of an Illuminati team?
Okay, all right, listen. I'm gonna do this in two ways. One, the Illuminati in the Marvel Comics fundamentally is a secret cabal of like leader representatives from different groups that you would not see together, that function behind the scenes to do things that to do the highest level stuff. So you've got Black Bolt from the Inhuman, typically Black Bolt from the Humans. You've got Iron Man. You've got Professor X. You've got Namor representing Atlantis. They were often led by Black Panther, which is interesting because I'm not sure how that would play itself out. Mr. Fantastic.
Got a thought on that.
Mr. Fantastic, who I think is definitely one of the people in those chairs right there. And they were created by Brian Michael Bendis, and they sort of retconned that to kind of go back and affect other Marvel stories that happened, but they connect to Secret Invasion, which we know we have a series coming up. They connect to a lot of things. However, the most critical part here is, in my opinion, and this is where we're heading, I think, Jonathan Hickman, who I want to do an entire episode on, did this really like massive, as he tends to do, run on Avengers, and he brought the Illuminati back together, this time with Beast, Hank McCoy instead of Professor X, because at the time Professor X was dead in the storyline, and Captain America was there. And this is really important because of a threat to existence that was these incursions of reality. And that's why I think we're connecting here. So the idea was that reality was all these different universes of these realities were crashing on top of each other, and that Earth was the nexus point. And so they were going to destroy, they were going to try to destroy these other planets to save our reality. And you can imagine Captain America tries to like defeat them with the Infinity Stones, actually, and in the process the Infinity Stones shatter and the time zone goes missing, which is relevant later, and they're gonna essentially like blow up this other incoming reality, and Captain America, being Captain America, is like, no way, you're not doing that, and essentially they mind swipe him and like make him forget the entire thing and get him out of the mix, and then go forward to do it. And there's like, they fight other superhero they essentially fight the Avengers or the whatever group from the different universes and essentially commit genocide of like universe after universe to keep ours going. So you can imagine it was a very complicated thing, morally, ethically, etc. So that's the Illuminati. And I think that's what this multiverse is all heading to. Eventually Secret Wars, which I want to talk about a little bit, but that this idea of incursions. So when Xavier says we should tell him the truth, what my guess is, it'll be that kind of a reveal. My guess is that I'm wondering, even the scene, the clip, I don't know if you can find it, it's a little earlier in the trailer, where Strange is pulling up these sort of globes that all kind of look the same and then like pulling them into focus and then smashing them. I don't know if that, there, it's right here. I don't know if that is him literally trying to essentially eliminate these other incursions, or whether it's just a visual reference to it, but it sure is a visual reference to it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's an over explanation of the Illuminati probably at this point.
So I thought about the incursion storyline too, but the biggest question I had then is, what does that mean for the Loki like TV series and that timeline with Kang the Conqueror, and how do those two like exist in the same realm of like, if you have the Illuminati destroying universes at the same time, you have Kang the Conqueror who's like managing the universes that never came up when like during the Loki series.
No, but I think that's actually what I think is exactly what they'll do. It didn't come up, and then the end of it is we sprawl back into all these multiverses again, right? He hears the multiverse break, and then we have all these incursions. And his goal was always to hunt down. Remember, he even said that that's what they did. They would systematically go out and kill the other realities, right? So that's now broken and needs to be fixed. Right? So I don't know. That's what my big picture thing here has been up until this point. To tell the story I think they're going to tell, this isn't like a 5-year Infinity Wars arc. It's like a 20. I mean, it's a massive, sprawling story to get to Secret Wars, and so this is an important. So I'm going to drop a little news right now that may reframe this conversation. Okay, and credit to TiVo and the Lords of the Long Box. If you want Marvel spec and like insider stuff, they're the absolute best. Follow them. But TiVo broke this story that the next Infinity Wars Endgame thing is going to be Secret Wars, but it's actually going to be 3 films. And each one of those is going to have a Kang, a Doctor Doom, a Galactus. And then that's all going to come together. So we are building. So my guess is this sets up so much. The game is so long.
I am not a fan of Secret Wars.
Which Secret Wars?
I think, God, it was the Secret Wars when Spider-Man killed.
You're not a fan of Secret Wars because of this book, because you don't like that Spider-Man whooped up the entire X-Men.
It's not real.
Correct?
It's not a real story.
Correct?
It's not a real storyline. I'm
It's
sorry.
not a reason to not like Secret Wars.
You can't tell me Spidey senses can really beat the X-Men. Are you kidding me?
So that's the thing. It's like I can talk about Secret Wars, but I'm a little reluctant. Like, do you want to hit any other specific stuff?
No, I want to hit this.
I think we gotta talk about who are sitting in those 6 chairs.
Sure.
Who are the characters? Who are the actors? I've got a list longer than that draft list I had sitting in front of me. So So I think that, like, to me, it seems like each of the chairs has to represent like a corner of the MCU universe, either what we've seen so far or what's going to come in the future. We know that Xavier is one of them. He's representing.
I think we're getting God Doom. I just wanted to throw that up there. I'm going to double back to that.
So we're gonna. I'm going to go through this list. I think my understanding of the Illuminati of the universe is that Reed Richards is in one of those chairs.
I think the guy immediately to the left of his shoulder is Reed Richards.
Now, do we think that it's Ewan Grufford's Reed Richards back from the early 2000s, or do we think it's someone else in that?
Krasinski, yeah.
And is he going to play the character moving forward, or is this a variant?
He's playing no idea.
I have no idea. Mm-hmm. I don't want him to, but the public sure does. So.
Joe, you think that it's going to be Krasinski as Reed, and he is our new Reed moving forward?
Well, I think that either we get a Tom Cruise cameo or John Krasinski. Is one or the other. And if we get Tom Cruise, we're getting the old one. If we don't get a Tom Cruise cameo, I think we're getting John Krasinski, a new Robert Reed. Yeah.
You heard the Cruise rumor as Reed, huh? I heard it as Iron Man.
I have Tom Cruise. No, I have Tom Cruise as Iron Man. I don't think we're going. I think
I see.
The other, yeah.
That's two very different caliber of gets. Like the idea that Krasinski would do it.
I see what she's saying, though, is that, like, if you have Cruise there, then you can, like, survive with, like, the forgotten Grufford also there. But, like, if you, like, balancing out the excitement. So it's, so, like, something I have in mind, this list is, like, I think it's within the realm of plausibility that, like, Tenoch Huerta could be there as Namor, just, like, off to the side and maybe do a little, but it's just a tease for what we're going to get from him in Black Panther. That seems like a plausible outcome.
So do you think we're going to have a Black Panther there, though?
So I have this under wild cards, but I think that it could be cool if Michael B. Jordan played a variant of N'Jadaka, who was raised in Wakanda the entire time, speaks with the Wakandan dialect, and it's like alluded to the fact that he like took on the mantle of Black Panther when his cousin died. I think that could be like super dope to see, like, there's this other universe where the Wakandan past happened slightly differently and have like Michael B. Jordan up there, but like not speaking with the American accent, speaking with the Wakandan accent. I think that could be cool.
That'd be cool. What would be cool for me is like, I know this is a sidebar, but like, I totally want them to recast Black Panther. I think it's ridiculous to get rid of that character in the storyline. Thank you. It would be like wonderful if there was a Black Panther variant on this council to bring into the future universe, scrap the old movie, do a brand new one. That is my wishful thinking.
Who would be your wish to play him?
I mean, it's like this. I don't know. I haven't even thought about that. I think, like, honestly, like doing a Michael B. Jordan variant, like, why not? Like, we did it in the What If series, like, well received in the fan base. It's like, why not do that variant and just stick with it and just pull it from the multiverse? Don't do any standalone films. Just have it like it is what it is.
I feel like Michael B. Jordan's going to be back in a big way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let me posit this thought. What if, yes, the Illuminati is 100% in. I feel like 100% in. What if this is not the Illuminati, though? What if this is the Council of Reeds, for example? Because so the guy immediately to the right of the shoulder, who I had said, like, it doesn't make any sense to introduce Dr. Doom this early, but it sure looks like Dr. Doom because of the way the cloak is draped and everything like that. But then I look at the person just walking and heading towards a chair is kind of wearing the same cloak, right? So that kind of undercuts that. So this could just be, and the remember he's brought in by what is clearly some like Iron Man looking robots, right?
Ultron.
Well, I have a thought on that too.
What's your thought? God.
Well, okay. Can we rocket fire some of these, and the three of you can say, all right. So Tony Stark, does he appear? Is Downey coming back, or is it Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise.
Downey.
No.
Dan, what do you think?
My guess says Downey.
Okay.
That would be my guess.
So here's another for the Avengers representation. For the Avengers representation, we could get would make sense to have Nat back. That could be fun. Banner. What if those robots you saw are actually like a perfection of Ultron that Hank Pym did, and we get Michael Douglas up there?
That's fun. I can't see it, but it's fun.
What about Captain, the other captain from What If, not the female Captain America?
Captain Carter.
I think
Captain Carter's definitely like.
Yeah, I think on the council.
On the council?
No, I don't think so.
To represent I think they're all going to be variants of the comic version of the Illuminati. So we won't get Captain America. We'll get Captain Carter.
Like Captain America was there for like a minute. Like that's the whole point. He's sort of not the Illuminati.
Yeah, neither was Black Panther though, but I do think they might.
No, Black Panther was. Black Panther was their leader.
Black Panther was never a part of the Illuminati.
No, he like led their entire team. Like he was the let's kill these other planets guy. Like that was his like big. We should do it.
I think a question that I would pose is like less about who necessarily appeared on the team in the comics and more like who would be interesting to include here. So it seems like I'm going to throw out one last name. This seems like a character that never in the comics participated in this, but where the MCU is now, I could see this happening. Tobey Maguire.
I can see what you're saying, and I can see why.
I just don't see them going in this direction.
I
just don't see it.
If Tobey Maguire was up there, I would be confused, but also hyped.
I'm not saying these are all like super fun. These are all super fun. I just don't see it. I think it's got to be people who are very comfortable getting their hands dirty.
All right, so who's your sixth, Dan?
Yeah, who's your
sixth? I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know. You want a more clever answer than that? I think we'll get Black Bolt. I think we'll get the Inhumans.
Okay.
I think that feels because if they're going to be, if we have an opportunity to introduce someone, I think we get Xavier, which opens up that thing. I think we get Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. So now we've brought 3 things already out of the 6 into the fold, right? I think you could do look, we know Namor's cast. We know Namor's coming. Would they want to use Namor before the introduction? I don't know. But then again, when did we meet the Black Panther?
Exactly.
Without like
so that's possible, right? So it would make some sense to have Namor there. I feel like there wants to be somebody more. There wants to be somebody more. I don't know. Intergalactic. I'm not sure who that is. I really am not. What I can't get over.
I mean, it could be Carol.
Howard the Duck.
Carol.
Carol.
Carol. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Because we saw the Captain Marvel like shape and like uniform. So like it's either Monica Rambeau.
It's Monica. That's Monica.
It's Monica. I don't think it's Monica.
I feel like really confident that's Monica. It just makes thematic sense. Like if we're actually talking about the follow up from the TV show, thematically it makes a lot of sense. The only other argument, but I don't like this argument, is actually somebody said that is the
superior
Iron Man. But like,
I can see it.
But I feel really confident that's Monica Rambeau.
But one of my hopes is, that Strange comes through this experience. The movie resolves itself at the end, but Strange realizes that his universe needs an Illuminati, that this movie doesn't bring all these people in, but he goes back to our regular MCU, and the movie ends with him seeking out MCU Xavier, played by Daniel Craig.
So
I think McAvoy is coming. I think McAvoy is going to be the.
Do you think?
I feel pretty confident about that.
Do you think this Earth we're seeing is the main Earth?
No.
I don't think it is either.
No.
I think it's the future. I think it's one of the timelines. I think the time. I mean, he's not. Why on our Earth, if there's an Illuminati, would they have this kind of a room? That's why I posited. Are we? I think Illuminati's coming. Are we sure that's what we're seeing here? Because it's the Illuminati never had this. Like they were like 6 dudes hanging out in like a small room that nobody could see. You know what I mean? It wasn't like pomp and circumstance and guards and all this stuff. Whereas the Council of Reeds, which the Council of Reeds directly relates to Kang, like 1-to-1. Okay, so the idea is that Reed Richards is another one of these constants who's like a universal, right? The sort of the smartest man in the universe, and there's plenty of those realities where he breaks real bad. Like real bad. So it's possible that he's being summoned to stand trial and all this stuff. The Illuminati is not there to like judge the group. They're there to get their hands dirty fixing stuff. So I like talking about Mr. X. I mean, maybe I'm really overreaching, but I think when we hear Xavier's voice, Illuminati. This scene, I don't know.
Yeah, and I just want one last note on this is like especially the Council and Illuminati. I think one something I was reading, but one of the writers for this is also the writers for Rick and Morty, and you see the Council of Ricks, and like that theme also playing in here, and I think that is a strong possibility.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So when we see the part talking about the tourism, the multiverse tourism, the scenes, and we can see if we can find it where it's real quick, so it's kind of hard to find, but he essentially like is falling through. Yeah. So can you just back up like just before this one, like a 2 seconds before it? I don't know if okay, freeze. Go back to that and freeze if you can. Freeze it. Okay, see the dinosaur in the background?
Yes.
This is the Savage Land. 100% this is the Savage Land. Savage Land is huge X-Men location, many other things as well, but I guarantee that now, are they just falling through that reality? And I think that's America Chavez that he's got, the one who can punch the stars through
like it.
realities. This one, you'll notice, by the way, when she punches, that scene, it's towards the end of the trailer, it literally is almost this exact frame when she shows up. Great character. I'm really, really excited they're bringing her in. But now whether we're just like flying through these realities or whether we're going to spend time in them, I don't know. So this may just be fan service. Right? It may just be. Anyway, continue. So,
Did you notice that's a cartoon one too?
What'd you say?
There's an animated universe they also jumped through.
But that's not that same
was
one?
it?
Because I know people were arguing. I think people were arguing that's animated. So one of the internet rumors, if this is what you're talking about, is that the X-Men, the one X-Men series we know is coming, the announced one is the X-Men 93 or 97. What is it called? Does anybody know?
96, I think.
Right. So it could it's either 7 or 3. Anyway, it could be that the Xavier's voice we hear is like from the animated universe, and that's another way they deal with it. I don't think so, but it could be. That's one of the rumors going around. So
that's interesting.
I think that the people who are speculating that there's an animated universe are seeing one shot or one shot of unfinished FX.
I agree. I agree. No, I totally agree.
Like,
see, this is the shot right here, right? Isn't that the shot with Monica or somebody flying into? Is that this? I can't remember.
Yeah, it is this. I'll play it.
Yeah, right there.
Right there.
That's not. I don't think it's Monica.
I think it's Monica.
I think it's either Carol or Iron Man Supreme.
It's not Carol.
I mean, I see it. I could see it as Iron Man because I mean, there's blue glowing chest, maybe.
Yeah, you can see a goatee right there.
It definitely
you can see whatever you want in that picture. I'm just saying, Carol's probably off world somewhere handling like the Kree Skrull War. You know what I mean?
It definitely could be Monica, though. I don't know.
It's Monica or Superior Iron Man. If it's not one of those two, I'd be shocked. But I don't know. Anyway, it thematically makes way more sense that Monica and Wanda would be getting in it than anything else. That's why I end up in that. It's not that I think it looks like Monica. It's just storytelling.
Yep.
So now this, as you guys were saying, is I think, and this goes back to Dan, I think you were saying like Captain Carter being in it. Like it's very clear that, and then you have the Marvel Zombies and you have the Dark Strange, you have all that stuff. So I think I just lost a light. We've been on long enough. When my batteries run out. They clearly, which I thought the What If was going to be this throwaway series, and clearly they're going to bring them all out. But how long we stay in any of these, that's where it might be the multiversal tourism part.
Well,
and it's also the What If stuff is like a testing ground.
Joe, what were you saying?
Oh, so did you all enjoy the What If series? A lot of people weren't big fans of it.
It was not for me. It was not for me.
It came together at the end for me. I liked it at the end.
I like how it came together at the end.
It really, I mean, it felt like they finally like gave a real like version of Ultron that was actually threatening at the end, which was nice.
See this image?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've got it clear enough. Can I? Let me see. See that?
Yeah.
All right. Continue to play. Just press play and let it run.
That was the reality with the Doctor Strange statue. That's the Westview house.
There's America Chavez.
Mm-hmm.
Star Punch.
That was Bloody Wanda.
Now watch this. It's right here.
Right
look
here.
at that. Now look at the cover. Go back a little bit. Look at the cover. So that's from the Hickman lead up to with the incursions and Secret Wars and all that stuff. So now again, could just be they're doing visual homage. My actual main take.
Who is that?
That's Strange.
That's Strange.
Is that Zombie Strange or What If Strange?
Little A, little B. One of my down and takes away. So let me just talk Secret Wars for because we're running real long. Let me talk Secret Wars real quick to give a little bit of context. So there's 2 Secret Wars because why not? There's the Secret Wars. It's pretty iconic from the 80s that we should probably talk about sometimes because actually it's a pretty landmark thing and depending on your perspective, either ruined or was like the greatest thing that ever happened in comics. But it sort of is often indicated as like the start of a certain era. That's a pretty iconic cover of issue 1. This is issue 4, which you'll notice the Hulk kind of holding up the mountain, which they kind of homage that in Endgame, right? Magneto plays a big role, so we'll talk about that. Here's Joe's favorite. Spider-Man kicks the X-Men's ass. This cover, which is the first black suit symbiote, and I'm telling you, all that's coming, and it's going to be the Marvel way, not the Sony way. This incredible Doom cover, right? So these are iconic covers. The premise of that is the simplest, like youngest kid, like who would beat up who in a fight story. It's just bonkers fun. It's not that complicated. A creature from beyond called the Beyonder who has more power than anyone creates a battle world. He takes all the best heroes and all the best villains, drops them on the world and says, you guys fight. The winner can have whatever they want. That's the entire premise. That movie, that simple premise is going to be the next big Endgame Infinity Wars, but it's going to be 3 films. Okay. And the Russo brothers are coming back to direct it. All right. So if they're doing a trilogy over that story and the Russos are coming back and we're getting massive villains, they're going to need a lot more subject material, which brings us to the other end of the spectrum, which is this Secret Wars. I can show it. Which was this Jonathan Hickman run that lasted years and is dense, but like one of the more jaw-dropping reads ever. And it pretty much starts with the Illuminati finding out about these incursions and setting out to finish it. Along the way, Strange makes deals with demons and becomes even more powerful. So we could be looking at that shot there. Maybe you have Doom essentially takes on these Beyonders to create the end game and eventually ends as this is an incredible Doom cover, by the way. I don't know if I got to find a way to show these without the glare. I don't know if I can take it out of the bag. Essentially getting the power to take on these Beyonders and becomes, at the end of everything, this God Emperor Doom. That's not how the story ends either, so it doesn't really matter. That would by itself would be years and years and years. My guess is they are taking some of these Hickman elements, which is a little bit richer and a little bit denser and gorgeous visualization, and giving us the original Secret Wars along the way, and they're gonna give us the steps along the way. There is a visual I'm gonna try to find here. See if you can find, this is gonna be hard to find, okay? See if you can get a freeze frame when we dive into Wanda's eyeball.
And there's the two like cages
Four.
kind of thing.
Four. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to see. Yep. Okay.
That?
Yeah, I wish we could get a little tighter, but it's gonna be hard to get it.
Yeah.
Freeze there. Okay, but can you back it up a little bit? Eek. I know it's gonna be hard to catch it. So I am positing that what you are seeing in there are platforms, and they are platforms evoking. I'm gonna try to find these panels if I can. Doom, Strange, and a couple other characters that I don't want to fully reveal. Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can show this. Eek. I'm so bad at this. Essentially, like diving into the void. I'll try to get some screenshots of that, share that in a future episode. But anyway, at the end of everything. So I wonder if we're seeing a sort of a vision of the end of everything here, some future tense thing, something. Okay.
Show the panels now, Dan.
Because I'll have a bigger shot of it.
Mm-hmm.
The important part here, I'll show this one there. Wait. You can kind of see it there. You can kind of see it there.
Okay.
Also, you'll notice the Thor hammer there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So another part of that story, and this is why I'm saying it can connect to everything. Who knows? Another part of that story is in Thor: Love and Thunder. We know we're getting Natalie Portman back. She's probably going to take on the mantle of Thor. In this story arc, Thor loses his worthiness. That actually from the original Sin storyline. Joe, you were talking about that offline with me. And he picks up his hammer and whatever. All these films are going to have some fold back into this. Anyway, so the reason I wanted to freeze frame that and the reason I wanted to show those panels is I think they're pulling visual landscape from the art on that Hickman run. Hickman's a writer. This is a few different artists, but almost all of them just crush it. It's gorgeous, gorgeous. So they'll pull some visual landscape, they'll pull some plot landmarkers, and we'll hurdle our way forward towards Secret Wars. That's where I think we're all going. How we get there and which things they're going to choose to highlight or not.
Well, I'm very excited for this movie.
Really excited.
That's what I'm saying.
I wasn't it originally supposed to come out next month?
Yeah, they did move it, right?
I mean, it was originally supposed to come out like a year or two ago. So, like,
Oh, that's true.
yeah, these release dates shift all the time. But yeah, at some point it was supposed to come out in March 2022.
I'm very excited.
Jane becomes Thor. Look at Wanda, so angry.
Yeah, I can't even defend Wanda after watching this trailer. I get hours. There's no defense.
Well, you may that's what I'm saying. You don't know which Wanda you're seeing in that clip. Because that Wanda with the eye shot and the one who's talking to herself in the Westview and whatever, that's a very different Wanda than the one who's like bathed in red and is like, why am I the villain? It looks like
we haven't talked about if Vision's in here, have we?
I hope White Vision's in here.
I bet not.
But what are they saving him for then?
West Coast Avengers.
Oh yeah.
Which will get Kate, and you'll have Kate Bishop. That'll be Kate Bishop, probably America Chavez. I don't know. We'll see. Hawkeye, All right, sorry. This has been a long one. The panel's losing it. I'm sure the audience is probably losing it. Any final thoughts other than we're hyped for this, and that's a lot of content?
A lot of things coming up. A lot of things to watch. a lot of things to
Jessica
read.
Jones, yeah.
So much stuff happening.
Are we
Yeah,
getting
she
a
might be
final
there, too.
trailer?
There will be a final. There will be another
there'll
trailer
probably be
before it
another.
comes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
For sure.
What?
I am going to do a future pod that will probably just be me going real like deep divey nerd on the Hickman run. So I can just like babble on for 2 hours. So if somebody wants to like get super nerdy with me on that one, join me for that adventure, and I will break it down. It really is, to be honest, it's like a titanic creative achievement. It's kind of brilliant how many different threads he's able to fold into one multi-year story. But that's more than we need for tonight. So, well, guys, thank you very much, Joe. So glad we finally got you on.
Yay! Thank you.
Hope you'll
Yeah.
come back.
Yes.
Definitely.
This was fun. Good night, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Night.